Hello, my name is Don Milne. I'm the director and founder of Stories Behind the Stars. I'm creating a two-part story so you can learn how to write your first World War II fallen story. The mission of Stories Behind the Stars is to tell the stories of all 421,000 U.S. World War II fallen. That's a big number, and to get it done by our target date of September 2nd, 2025, we're going to need probably between 2,000 and 3,000 people helping us. If we can get enough volunteers helping us at that level and just do one story a week, it's totally doable. So why are we called Stories Behind the Stars? It's based on the service flag tradition in the United States, where families were given a blue star flag to indicate that they had a family member in service in the military during time of war. If somebody were to die, they would sew on a gold star overimposed on the blue star. And so we want to tell a story about each of the gold star fallen from World War II. We believe that each of these stars deserves a story, but in order to do that, we are going to need a couple thousand volunteers realistically to make that happen. We recognize that not everybody that's interested in this project has a real strong background that they could write out of the gate, get right into writing stories. We do have people with decades of genealogy experience. We have people who have advanced degrees in history. We have people with a military background that are very familiar. We have people that are published historians. Those are great, but we don't necessarily need to have only that level of expertise for people to participate in this project. We're basically just writing 500 to 1,000 word obituaries of people. And that's something well within the capabilities of probably most everybody. But in order to get the extra information you need that you may not be familiar with, we've created what we're calling Star Corps Boot Camp. And STAR stands for Storytellers and Researchers. Now, we have two partners that we work with as far as where we save our stories. One's called Together We Served, and the other one is called Fold 3. And you can see these photos that I'm sharing up here to kind of give a visualization of the difference between these two platforms. Together We Served is more like flying a C-47 transport. And you can see the instrument panel is a little more involved. Fold 3 is more like driving a Willys Jeep. And as you can see, the instrument panel is a little simpler. If it were up to me, and we knew people were super motivated and they had unlimited time, I would recommend learning how to use Together We Served, because the different capabilities and the features, just like you can see on that dashboard, there's a lot more we can do with that. But the downside is it does take a lot of time. The learning curve is tough. Some people just aren't going to want to learn to fly a C-47. They just want to get in a Jeep. So it's totally acceptable to just write the stories directly to Fold 3. We will leave it up to you which platform you use. But as a first story, I'm going to strongly encourage you, unless you're really comfortable with Together We Served, maybe you've already used it, or you just have that niche of experience with these type of websites, that it's going to be an easy learning curve for you. Otherwise, everybody use Fold 3 for your very first story. So this is how we're doing the very first story assignment, to make it super easy, to give you some confidence, to help you walk through it very simply. What we're going to do is we're going to take some bomber crews. Sometimes they're not bombers, but they're crews from the Army, Air Forces, or the Navy that unfortunately went down with all hands aboard, or with most of them lost. And we're going to take these stories where we know we have up to 10 individuals who didn't make it home. We're going to have an experienced writer write the first story, and then we're going to have up to 9 new writers write stories of the other individuals that were on this plane. And the benefit of this is we're going to give you that first story that was already written by an experienced writer. And then you're going to just basically do 5 things. You're going to review this crewmate story. You're going to review the story that was already written. Obviously, the last half of it may be very similar to what you'd have to write because they were on the same plane on that last mission. But you can also see how that writer wrote the other information, which would be different, such as where were they born, what about their family, where did they grow up, is there some information from earlier in their service that you can include, and there'll be some pieces maybe after the fact that would be more related to maybe they were married, maybe they had kids, and you're able to get that information include. That would be different too. So number one, you're going to research that crewmate story, get familiar with how they wrote it. And then second, you're going to do the research the information so you can do that short obituary. And then the third thing you do, you're going to write the story, and then you're going to remember it or save it. And we're recommending for this first story, you save it to full 3. And then after you've done that, we're going to do a review, catch typos, a few other things like that. And that's basically all we need you to do for this very first story. We estimate that it could take you as little as 2 to 3 hours. If it's taking less than that, maybe you're going through a little bit too fast. Maybe this first story might take you a little bit longer just because you're learning the ropes, but realistically, probably 2 to 3 hours is enough time. And what's super cool about this is the story you write is going to be accessible at any gravesite, any memorial via a smartphone app, so that people for decades to come, when they visit that person's gravesite or memorial, they're not just looking at a name on stone and wondering, who was that person? I don't know anything about him. They'll just pull out their smartphone and they'll read the story that you wrote. Because every fallen deserves a story, and with your help, we can make that happen by September 2nd, 2025, when every World War II fallen will be remembered with a story. Now, we're going to give you more details in part 2, but I wanted to make this a little bit on the short side so it wouldn't scare people off by saying, I don't want to sit there and watch that whole thing. I don't have that time. Well, I've hopefully whetted your appetite so that you can say, yeah, this makes sense. This is something I can do. And then part 2, I'm going to go over those 5 R's again, a little more detail to see exactly what it takes to write your first story. And I hope you continue on with part 2, and I hope that you will participate in Stories Behind the Stars. Thank you very much.